But the issue is if you've benefited from texturism when you had your natural hair without it being locked, or if you never confronted what your hair looked like grown out without your edges laid, when you have locks, all of those issues is gonna spill over into the locks. She's associated getting retwists with feeling beautiful, and she's associated her length of her hair with like a form of beauty. And so when it's not in those fresh retwist stage, who really are you? Do you really like yourself?
Sometimes it don't make no sense. Does it really have to? There is nothing I can say.
Hi, welcome to Mayowa's World. Hi y'all, welcome to Mayowa's World. If you are new here, my name is Mayowa, and on my channel I like to talk about colorism, texturism, and featureism. Today's topic is going to be around texturism and the ugly phase of locks. So if you don't know, texturism is the discrimination of kinky hair types. And when I say talk about discrimination, I mean interpersonally, I mean systemically. Having kinky hair is seen as a negative thing globally in society. Your own personal views don't have to align with that, but this is what texturism is. So the act of reclaiming our hair is in response to a system that is oppressive. Right now, I feel like we're going through some kind of lock revivalism. Coining words. I feel like we're having a lot of discussions around texturism. I feel like the texturism that hit the 4C natural hair community is we're having some kind of internal processing within the lock community. And we're really like having to reanalyze certain words and certain phrases that we say within the lock community and unpacking just how problematic it is. If y'all are new, I have freeform locks, so that means that my hair naturally grows like this, but essentially it's having 4C loose hair over a period of time, and this is just how it adapts. So because I have my hair like this, I feel as if I am in kind of two worlds where I can see how people who have loose 4C hair, and when I say loose, I mean not locked, and then locked 4C hair. Like I can see the mixture of both. In the lock community, I feel like there is a lock hierarchy, and at the bottom of the lock hierarchy is going to be kinky, short, free-form locks, or just kinky, short locks. And at the top of the hierarchy, I would say would be manicured, long, very neat hair. Okay, and because there's a lock hierarchy, there's going to be a lot of problems when different people in the lock community are unpacking their anti-blackness onto you. So there was a video going around on TikTok that spilled over to different social medias of a girl crying because she is having to confront the fact that the lock, like having locks isn't easy. I think in the video, she's unpacking texturism and also the fact that when you have locks, it doesn't matter how long your hair is prior to having locks. When you have locks, it always shrinks. So in the shrinkage process of that, I think a lot of people have to confront a lot of really ugly feelings that often falls on very marginalized people. A phrase I want to unpack within the lock community, within the natural hair community in general, is the term bald-headed. Because, okay, so bald-headed like is actually just as it sounds, it's somebody who has no hair, but Black people have a really miraculous way of using words that is just who you are to either be like a read in a negative way or to be something that's positive. Like take, for example, some people can say, oh, you're Black. And it just means like, oh, you're actually Black. Or you can say, oh, you're Black. And that expression, we have to be very honest, we know what that means. It's like, especially if you're dark skinned, that people are used to saying, oh, you're Black, as in to talk about how dark you are and in a negative way. And same thing comes with like, oh, you have, same thing comes with like the reclamation of words like nappy and also the word bald-headed. Because sure, some people can describe themselves like I'm bald-headed, but it also means a negative thing. And a lot of times when people are trying to make a par at someone or hurt someone's feelings, they call them bald-headed.
Their fuzzy adornments.
You bald-headed demon.
Show some respect, you two.
For myself, I feel like there is this feeling of being like, of having fear of being a Black person who just doesn't grow hair. Like the way our hair is so attached to our identities is so intense. So when you're like made to feel like, oh my God, I potentially am bald-headed, it is something that you have to unpack in yourself, because there's nothing innately wrong with not having hair. And the reason why it's used as a par is because long hair is tied into femininity. And not only is long hair tied into femininity, it's also tied into Eurocentric standards of beauty. And when I want to say, when I say Eurocentric standards of beauty, I don't mean that you look like a European. I mean that the types of characteristics that you have or features that you have or hair texture that you have is beneficial within a Eurocentric world. I can admit that having long locks is me benefiting from a Eurocentric society. I don't know why it's hard for people to acknowledge their privilege, because I can see that I am seen as more conventionally attractive because of the length. Even though my hair is kinky and I do experience texturism, I'm not gonna experience the same level of texturism as somebody with short, kinky 4C hair. Okay, so bald-headed, like that word as a negative thing, is something that is a form of internalized texturism, and just like the stripping away or feeling like you're having your femininity stripped away when you don't have hair. So this person in the video had called themselves bald-headed even though they literally had hair, which I thought was kind of strange. But you know, going in on how long the process is and how like there is no, they call it the ugly phase, right? Like they call the process of having locks and it being short the ugly phase. And I've always pushed back against this. Like if you've seen any of my other videos, I've always really pushed back against the ugly phase of locks because I think it's really problematic. Just that whole thing. I think it's problematic to imply that having short locks or short hair is ugly. I think it's also problematic to, and it's discouraging for people who are starting locks to feel like, even if I remember feeling like, oh, I starting to actually like how I look with my locks being short, but feeling like this was considered the ugly stage. Like it's hard to love yourself when you're aware that the lock community sees that phase you're in as ugly.
I have been locking my hair for 4 months. 4 months, yeah. And this is what it looks like. This is a completely different transition to anything I've ever done to myself because I've always been so obsessed with having perfect hair and everything being perfect, and like this is completely accepting that your hair is not perfect, and the idea of perfect is like completely bullshit. Perfect is just a way to fucking destroy your soul. So I have been accepting it and I really love it because it just shocks me every day. Every day I look at my hair, I just get really surprised. Like I'm just like surprised that I'm doing this.
And really that process, like how you grow and how you develop when your hair is the shortest and you're kind of like rejecting the most Eurocentric standards of beauty, like that short kinky hair, that's actually the stage where you're really developing like your heart and your strength, right? Like I think that is like the most vulnerable part of having locks. I feel like that phase where your hair is short is the most vulnerable because you feel inclined to just cut it off because you feel like it's not growing quick enough, and you feel like it's not short, it's not short, it's not long. Like you feel like you're kind of in the middle of things. And the more you can accept your hair in its natural states before you lock it, when you lock your hair, it's going to just be smooth. But the issue is if you've benefited from texturism in your natural hair, when you had your natural hair without it being locked, or if you never confronted what your hair looked like nappy, grown out, without your edges laid, when you have locks, all of those issues is gonna spill over into the locks. It's gonna spill over into the lock community in general. I think a lot of people, like I saw this one girl on TikTok and she was talking about having locks and she had like very minimal new growth. And she was saying that she feels so anxious when she has a little bit of new growth because she doesn't feel fresh. And like she's associated getting retwists with feeling beautiful, and she's associated her length of her hair with like a form of beauty. And so when it's not in those fresh retwist stage, who really are you? Do you really like yourself? Because, you know, for me, because I have freeform locks, you have to confront anti-blackness at a more severe rate. And when you confront your anti-blackness, your whole hair is new growth. I never had a retwist. So if I've never had a retwist, I've never had that before and after stage of feeling like, oh, I'm embarrassed, I should hide myself, my hair is ugly, oh, now my hair is beautiful. I've just had that consistent feeling throughout, and I've had to learn to accept my hair without that fresh retwist feeling or like endorphins that are released. And I think that, you know, people who have manicured locks have to confront that phase and like what it is that about the retwist that is exciting them. Some people, you know, like my partner, they have locks that's manicured, and they like getting their locks done because they like the communal element of having someone do their hair and like, you know, grooming them, and like that feels really beautiful. And so like that after process is like, oh, someone has poured into me. But if you're like retwisting your hair and you're like, oh my God, I finally look acceptable. This is when I'm gonna go out. This is when I'm gonna do photo shoots. This is when I'm gonna be seen. And when I have my new growth, I'm gonna hide. That is an internalized texturism that you have within yourself. Another thing that I also wanted to address, along with like unpacking what the word bald-headed means, is also unpacking the dislike or the disdain for hair that sticks up. Like if you have 4C kinky hair, if you have a kinky hair type, your hair is going to stand up. My locks stood up and grew in an upward motion for years. It wasn't until maybe the past like 1 or 2 years that my locks have finally dropped, but there's something that like there's an acceptance that has to happen with the direction that your hair grows. Like it's just something that has to happen. And I think a lot of media and TV has like made fun of and stigmatized hair growing up and saying like, oh, you look like you've been electrocuted, or you look like you've been, I don't know, you have static on your head, or like whatever blackness has been like coded into our media. But I think that's something that really was freeing for me, was when I accepted that my hair grows up, and that is actually really powerful. And I think the biggest realization of this like lock renaissance, as I say, in terms of like having these discourses about locks, is that your texturism doesn't go away because you have locks. And there are certain things that people have within, like especially within manicured locks, of like things that they say that directly spills over and is really hurtful to people who have freeform locks. Like when people associate not having locks with looking, not having retwist with looking unkept, this is something that's going to fall down hardest on people who have freeform locks. So yeah, that is all I wanted to say about this. If you have that, if you have the short locks right now and you're feeling like you're in the ugly phase, take that scarf off your head, take that hat off of your head, stop trying to hide your hair, and go outside. Okay, go outside and rock your hair, because that phase where your hair is short is the most beautiful phase. And I remember a girl came up to me when I had my hair short, and she was like she complimented my hair, and she had long locks, and she was like, I like that hair, that point of your hair, because you can always grow longer, but you can't ever go back to that moment. And so that's when I always want to point to people, like, you are in a time where you're really like developing your character and confronting the most anti-Black texturist thoughts. And so how you feed yourself and how you feed what you're describing, that phase of your hair being short, will impact you as it gets longer. So it's really important to do that internal work and not just rely on the retwist to feel beautiful. Yeah, I'm happy. Okay, I expressed myself well. Okay, so thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.